Andrew, Pat said that was pretty much the best test he's been involved with. Edgbaston maybe on par. Your thoughts? How was the heart during that?
It's always hard to compare test matches, different scenarios, obviously defending a total versus obviously batting last at Edgbaston. So it'll go up there with one of the great wins, I'd imagine. It's for others to really critique that, but the way the boys stuck at it, 3 down at tee, we're clear that if we could take it deep and put some pressure on them, then anything could happen, and it did. What a test match, what a crowd. Yeah, they'll talk about it for the ages.
Are there any headaches heading into Sydney? Can you just talk through the headspace there and what you guys are thinking heading into Sydney, what you need to get right?
First we'll see how everyone recovers tomorrow. Clearly bowling last. It was a pretty attritional game, something that we're not used to in the last few years. So, we'll see how the bodies are. Clearly Starc's, he's carrying something of some description. We'll assess that. But other than that, it looks as though we got through pretty well unscathed. But short turnaround, recovery is important, and we'll assess what the team looks like in Sydney based upon the surface, as we always do.
Do you reckon Starc is any doubt at all for Sydney?
Anytime you get through the game, it's always a good indicator that you're a chance at the next game. It didn't stop him. Clearly there was a little bit of discomfort early on in spells, but once he got warm, it seemed as though he was pretty free. Ball speeds were good. I think the morning session there, the 20-plus overs that we bowled there is probably as good as we've delivered. So if that's any indicator, Starkey was a part of that as a collective. All that was relentless and really gave us an opportunity to control the game on the back of probably losing a little bit of control yesterday and some options. We earned them back.
Can you run through going back to a couple of days before when you told Sam Konstas he was going to play? What was your first of all? Was that I know you didn't deliver it, but the messaging along the way in terms of how he might play Test cricket? Did you have to give him a bit more extra guidance because he's so young?
No, we knew what we're getting into. As selectors, you follow that journey. Did we get a little bit more than what we expected? No doubt about that. His ability to put pressure on, and I think people talk about sort of heavy duty runs in the first innings, and he put pressure back on and allowed our middle order to get to work, and Steve Smith capitalised in that, and Marnus was good. So it set the tone, there's no doubt about that, and I thought that combination at the top looked like something going forward that could work.
Your reaction is live when he was first rounding and doing all that kind of stuff?
We knew what we were getting ourselves into. It was just, I suppose the conversation was how early was he going to get into those proactive shots, and 12th ball did surprise me a little bit.
Just exposing Sam to even time with Steve and McDonald and that for nets and seeing how hard they're working. Is that valuable for them as well to go through that process and see where they're spinning? I think you see it was out there around an hour and a half the other day, the day before.
If I put a coach's lens on this, no, it's not good because it's more hours for us. But there's no doubt, when you're talking about a team that's sort of going through transition, if you want to frame it that way, the ability to immerse yourself with those senior players through that period is incredibly important. He's going to be a better player by being in the environment, the conversations that happen, the nuances to the game. I think that's incredibly important on that journey to learning. And can you get that at Shield cricket? There's no doubt you can, but when you go a level up, the exposure to this level, I think creates different conversations. And I think he's a fast learner, so I think he's on the right path.
Where's Mitch Marsh at? I suppose with his body and his bowling, he's batting on the side, but given the management and the delays that have led to allow him to brush out the quicks through more, you can bowl much here. Is there any concern there?
No, there's no concern, and I think people have probably been reading too much into that. We haven't required him with the ball as often as what we would have thought. He bowled again today. His speeds are up in the high 120s. There are no injury concerns there, so I think to sort of head down that angle is a little bit unfair. We just haven't required him at certain times for whatever reason. So that's more a tactical implementation as opposed to a body.
And Josh Inglis out. Picked a replacement spare batter.
Have we picked one?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Maybe taking Mitch Marsh out of it, but given the history of the SCG in recent years, it does seem that it is a higher scoring ground, or has been a higher scoring ground in Test matches. Isn't fifth bowler more important there than it has been in the Test so far?
The answer is yes. There's no doubt the flatness of the surface over the past few years, being the last Test match of a summer traditionally. Obviously last year was slightly different. It creates different challenges for us, short turnaround as well. I think the amount of overs that we're bowled in the series is probably going to be to a benefit to us, to be honest. I think got asked the question leading into this game where the Quicks at. They're in pretty good shape. Assumption is they recover from this one. India have obviously probably very similar, albeit they've had a heavier workload here, but across the entirety of the series it's been relatively light. So I'd expect most attacks to be in decent shape to be able to press. So does that mean you need a fifth bowler? I think you still need a fifth bowler, but are you going to put huge demand on the fifth bowler? Potentially not.
Just also ask Pat this as well. These days, given that players and teams are looking to play more proactively, looking to score, is it a situation where you're sort of looking to get a team in a fourth innings in a situation where they have to defend, where they sort of can't, they can't really take a positive option?
I think that was advantageous today when they did sort of, I suppose, go into that defensive mode. I think it allowed us to operate in an area that we wanted to more often. I think when you've got proactive batting, you can get sort of hit out of those areas. So we felt as though there was enough in the wicket if we were able to hit those areas and maintain them for long periods of time. And as I said, that morning session in terms of the way we bowled was as good as I've seen in my time.
You talk about the top six gelling, what George has as well, top six gelling as a collective. That's probably as close in the first innings as you've got during the series. Still hasn't quite all come together. What did you make of the batting across the two innings in this game?
I think if you go back to Brisbane as well, I think we set up the game there in the first innings. So we've had back-to-back first innings that have been more the team that we want to be. There's no doubt we've wobbled in that second innings. Brummer's still going to create a threat no matter where he enters the game, and in Sydney he'll be a threat again, so we've got to be able to combat that. But as I said, I think we lost a little bit of the right to control the game and give ourselves options today on the back of yesterday, but we're able to get to a point where we felt like we were going to have some options, and that was more our lower order, obviously Paddy with Marn, and then into the last wicket partnership of Boland, and Nathan Lyon was incredible, gave us belief at the end of play, but it also, as I said, gave us options today if we needed to be creative at any time, and we didn't really need to. As I said, the defensive play of India probably allowed us to control a little bit more than we thought.
And how is Mitch Marsh's headspace? He was your best player last summer, but he's probably the only one who hasn't really contributed with the bat this summer.
Yeah, he's in a good space. Would he like better performances? There's no doubt about that. Over 4 Test matches, he hasn't been able to deliver at the level he would like and we would like. But yeah, I mean, he's up and about. We just won a Test match, and the family's flown to the room, so I think he's in a pretty good headspace.
Selectors copped a bit of heat for not making hard decisions and being a bit too close to players. You did that, and Konstas played well. How satisfying was that, and what did you make of all the commentary around that leading into that test?
It doesn't give us any satisfaction. It's for other people to talk about what decisions are hard and what aren't. We're there to do a job and make the best decision with the information that we've got, and we'll continue to go down that path, and you'll critique that in hindsight. That's not our job, hindsight.
Apart from the fact that you've got 2-1 in front, you've got some options heading into Sydney. How important is that to get some reward for effort, given what had happened in Brisbane, and you'd probably driven that game for 4 days, and if you hadn't got the result, that kind of could have been pretty deflating.
I don't want to go into that mindset. Don't want to even think about that, to be honest. I mean, after the first test, the way that we responded as a group across 3 Test matches, I think, has been incredibly impressive. We weren't at our best in the first Test match. We've owned that. And since then, I think the group's played the style of cricket that we want to, and we've put India under pressure and put them in some difficult situations. And unfortunately, the weather intervened in Brisbane. Who knows what would have happened there? You can never predict. But here, we kept the belief throughout the whole Test match, and we're able to get the result. So it's incredibly, satisfying.
Ronnie, are you confident that John Richardson could get through a test if you needed him for Sydney, and just generally with the fast bowlers, what are you kind of thinking with your running line, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, very confident. He's here for a reason. So if we weren't confident, he wouldn't be here. He's off to play Big Bash. I think that's tomorrow night. He'll join us on the 1st. So he's had a heavy week with us in the nets. All indications are he'd be capable of bowling 40-plus overs if he was called upon. Sean Abbott's there as well. We feel like he's, SCG is his home ground, so he'll be serviceable if called upon as well. So it'll be about assessing our frontline quicks and then making decisions from there.
Andrew,
pleased to see Nathan McSweeney go back and make some big bash runs. And given that he's someone that can play a variety of roles, is he one that you're looking at as that reserve batter to come back into the squad?
Well, we haven't had those conversations yet, so his big basher form line for Test cricket, highly unlikely. But it was incredibly pleasing the way that he dealt with that and was able to rebound really, really quickly, and I think people have spoken to that.
Just one more on Sam. I think Pat's talked about that, there is a generation gap there almost. How does that actually, I suppose, play out in practical terms when you've got a room full of mums and dads basically and
Can I answer that question in maybe 12 months' time? I mean, he's walked through the dressing room for the first time. Hadn't met him before that. That's a lie. I met him during the Australia A. We crossed over in a hotel when they were playing the Australia A game here, and we were playing the one-day game. So I've got to get to know him. But so far I like him.
With how quick a learner he seems to be, are you excited to see him learn, in other environments, overseas conditions, things like that, see how he can build?
Yeah, we think he's a quick learner. So exposure to different conditions across the journey, and if you're going to be an opening batter, over a long period of time, you've got to learn to play home and away. So are you forecasting forward towards Sri Lanka? I'm sure George will have some information early January around that. But look, he's a talented player. What he did out here impressed us. We knew what we were getting in for. That proactive cricket, maybe the direction of Test cricket as we know it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.